Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show and our Monday night roundup here on the channel. We're also going to be keeping a close eye, of course, on Leeds United. Their first game back in the Premier League. They get underway tonight against Everton, which kicks off in 2 or 3 minutes' time. I'm Chris Bell. I'd say I'm joined, as ever, by regular faces here on the show. Stephen Downs, Lewis Sale, and Gareth Walker. How are we all doing, gents? Are we well?
All good, mate. You?
Yes, not too bad. Not too bad at all. I mean, Gaz, let's quickly touch on you because obviously you've been away. You've had a lovely holiday, and I'll be honest, mate, you don't look refreshed from it.
I'm just absolutely shattered, mate. I'm just totally tired. Takes it out of me, all this travelling. Yeah, we were back Saturday, landed about 1:30, and I managed to get to Valley Parade for the game. So it was at Leeds Bradford, the airport that we landed. So yeah, I'm just tired, but I had a really great time. Just didn't want to come home, really. Surprisingly, Bradford have had a decent start to the season, so that kind of dampened the blow of coming home a little bit. But yeah, you know, when you're away, you don't want to come home. It was great. I want to book the next one already.
Fair play, fair play. Let's just touch on the Leeds United game then. Just before that kicks off, 3 of the new summer signings for Leeds in the starting lineup. So Lucas Perry in goal, back 4 of Bogle, Rodon, Strike, and Goodmanson. Stack, Ampadu, and Tanaka in the midfield. And then James and Nonto either side of Joel Pirot. For Everton, it's Pickford in goal, back 4 of Garner, Keane, Tarkowski, and O'Brien. Gay and Erogbonham in the centre of the park. Then Alcaraz, Dewsbury Hall, and Dye behind Beto. Lou, I'll start with you whilst we're touching on Leeds United. What do you reckon to how they are kind of lining up tonight? And, you know, I mean, having watched the interviews with Daniel Farker, he seems pretty happy with the squad that he's put together. Obviously, no Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the squad, missing out. I think it's just come a little bit too soon from having only signed a couple of days ago. What are your thoughts on it?
I think on paper they look strong, actually. Looking at Everton's team, it looks a little bit mixed matched, I think. I look at Leeds' squad, it looks a little bit more balanced. Yes, they've still got gaps at the moment. Like I say, Calvert-Lewin's just missed out, which is kind of understandable due to the lateness of their transfer going through. But I think arguably on paper, they'll look reasonably strong and probably got a little bit of depth as well. So I think it's going to be a really interesting one, how to see the fair. You know, it's that kind of cliche being Monday night football under the lights, Ellen Road, everything could potentially go in their favour, but it could also go against them. But I'm interested to see how some of them do go along, especially like Goodmanson and Stack, because they're expected big things at Leeds United. And, you know, Stack's got a bit of a, you know, he's got a good reputation before him, and also I know the likes of Jane Brownie have really bigged him up as well, and he's got to hit the ground running against what looks to be, on paper, not the strongest midfield for Everton, and I think that's where the battle can definitely be won for him tonight.
Yeah, Gaz, what's your take on the game tonight? Obviously, as a Liverpool fan, a game between Leeds and Everton might not be the best thing to bring you in on, but we'll do it anyway.
No, I think I've just been looking at the teams, as you say. I think Leeds at home against a team in Everton that have struggled the last few years, they've got to be looking to get off to a good start. Everton have left Grealish on the bench. They've left the new signing Barry on the bench. They paid 30 million for him, centre forward. They've gone with Beto tonight up front. As Lou says, it's not. Wouldn't say it's Everton's strongest side, but then that's probably partly due to them sort of bloody new signings in slowly. I don't think Leeds have anything to fear tonight. I think they can turn them over. I think they can win the game. A draw's not a disaster, but first game of the season, see how they get on. I think they'll be fine. I honestly think. I mean, having watched the games this weekend, I thought Brentford were terrible. As predicted, I thought Brentford were terrible. I think Leeds have as good a chance as say Sunderland are staying up. I think Burnley and Brentford will go, and then it's probably one from 3 or 4 for that third place. But yeah, I don't think they're about to fear tonight. And like I say, Everton leaving Grealish and Barry on the bench gives them a decent chance.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. We'll turn our attention then to our other sides across our region. We'll start with Huddersfield.
You're not going to me?
No. That would be...
What? No, you can't do that. You can't ask the other panellists and then not come to me. Well, that makes no sense.
It makes a world
We've got
of sense.
subscribers and viewers to look after, Downsy. That's why.
We have subscribers and viewers to look after. And Mr. Downs said, not earlier, I would love it if we are still on air and they're 3-0 down. So that's
up the
why.
toffees. That's all I want to say. Up the toffees.
Skipping over
Get at him, Everton fans. Get at him, Leeds fans. Get at him.
Get at him, indeed. Let's turn straight to and Leeds fans. You got something to get at him about. Town lost at the weekend. Oh, you don't like? Let's see. Go through that.
Well, we were crap. Just to put it plainly. Yeah, it was not a good result. A mad 10 minutes. We went 1-0 up through Ben Wiles, and that was a good start within 4 minutes. And, you know, we kind of were playing some decent...
Error?
You what?
Jack Watmore's massive error.
Yeah. So it was it was a good start, and then just 10 minutes of just absolute madness. And the first goal, Jack Watmore just misses the ball completely, and Goodman was very poor, I thought, to not save that shot, because Ennis scuffs it into the far corner. Second goal, you can't complain about the second goal because it's a quality strike, to be fair to the lad Evans. And then the third goal, the ball's put in again. Watmore doesn't really clear it. Ruskin doesn't go to block it when he could have blocked it. It's stabbed through by Honeyman, not with any quality. Like the third goal is just, it's not even non-league standard, and Ennis gets onto it, puts it past Goodman, who again I thought could have done far, far better. We fought back with Gooch getting a fantastic strike on goal, and we thought, hey, we might be in for a couple more goals, but Ennis got himself sent off. He was the man of sort of the match in terms of not for his quality play, but for the fact that he was just involved in pretty much everything that happened. It was a sending off. It was a red card. He jumped in. And then, Town for the second half, then the second half 45 minutes, they just passed the ball around the front of Blackpool's box without really taking any shots on goal, without doing anything different. And Blackpool basically sat back and said, come and break us down if you want to get back into this game. And they successfully managed to keep us out.
I mean, the honeymoon period had to end at some point, I guess, for Lee Grant, obviously after the good result in the Cup in midweek as well. What do you think he'll have learnt from the game on Saturday?
Yeah, well, obviously the Leicester game was amazing. The Cup game, that was probably, I would say that's the highest point of his managerial Town part at the moment, because, I don't think anybody really expected us to beat Leicester. And although it was on penalties in the end, we did really play some great stuff in that game. And it was two, absolutely fantastic strikes by Leicester players to get their 2 goals. Nothing either can be done about them. What can Grant learn from the Blackpool game? Well, I think the thing is what he struggled was with. In the first 3 games, he made clever substitutions, which changed the game. What he didn't do at Blackpool is he didn't use his substitutions very well, and the formations, although they changed within the game, they didn't make a difference. And I think he was just tactically shown up by Steve Bruce, who is a very experienced manager at any level of football, and he knows how to get teams to sit behind the ball and just, play that dour sort of northern style of football in a sense. And our northern football experience, as it's been dubbed by Mr. Kevin Nagle and the rest of the hierarchy at Town, couldn't break down Bruce's northern style of football. So that basically, I think Grant just needs to learn how to, break down oppositions, because we are going to get a lot of sides coming, not just to the John Smiths, but when we go to away grounds as well, and sit behind the ball for 90 minutes and try and catch Town on the attack. And something we don't have is a fair bit of creativity up there. Obviously, we brought Castledine in, who is a centre attacking midfielder. But when you look at across in terms of the front line at Town, there isn't a lot of different type of players, which most clubs do have within their ranks.
I'm going to come to Gaz for a second. Gaz, any idea what the chuff Northern football is and what is Downsy on about?
That's why I was sort of chuckling, because Downsy described Steve Bruce's sitting behind the ball at Dower wasting time tactics as Northern football, and I was thinking, isn't that what Kevin Nagle said they were going to get under Lee Grant?
No, but there's a difference. No, I don't think anybody's quite worked out what the hell Northern football is. But my point is that Steve Bruce, as well we all know, he's mainly managed Northern teams, hasn't he? And his whole philosophy is I don't think I've ever seen a Steve Bruce side play very attractive football. And obviously, when they went down to 10 men on Saturday, it was perfect for him, because all he had to do is get the 10 lads to literally defend the goal, and that was it. Like, they didn't have another shot on our goal. They only had, what was it, something like, was it like 13 passes in the second half, and Town had over 600. I mean, that's mental, isn't it?
It is.
It is, but what was the final score, mate?
No, I agree. Like, Bruce, again, has done a job on Town.
What I was meaning more of was, surely when that isn't what I would hope, for your sake, that's not what Kevin Nagle was getting at when he said that Lee Grant was going to play Northern football. Surely he didn't mean Steve Bruce type football. But I agree with what you're saying, because Steve Bruce is probably one of the most, well, he is definitely one of the most experienced managers in the lower leagues, and he damn well knows how to set up a team that's got 10 men, and he knows how to put when you've got that experience, he's going to know what he's doing. But Blackpool as well are a team that are tipped to do well this season, and they'd struggled in the first two games, haven't they? I would imagine Chris was going to come on to that. Yeah,
to be fair, you look at the squad on paper, though, it's a good side. I was surprised they lost as early as they did it. Was it Exeter?
Yeah, so
they were beaten heavily by, but I'm not surprised though. Back on the home patch, after those first couple of results, they turned up and got a result, regardless of whether it was 10v11 or whether it had been 11v11 anyway. Just look at the stats though. Overall, for the game, Huddersfield's 77.5% possession is quite staggering. 17 shots to 8. However, Blackpool still had more shots on target in the game, and 4 shots on target to 3. So for all of Town's efforts, very few of them actually troubled the Blackpool goalkeeper, Steve.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying though. Most of the game, you're just reading stats off a paper. I think what you have to realise with those stats is that a lot of the efforts that Town had on goal, apart from the 2 goals that we scored, were not anywhere near sort of like good opportunities, as I would say. A lot of the play was sort of passing from side to side around the Blackpool box and not getting it in there or not taking a pot shot. There was plenty of opportunities for our midfielders to have a go on goal, and they just turned it down and didn't. The whole highlights package, if you watch it, which is like 9 minutes long, is literally 7 minutes of the first half and 2 minutes of the second half. And the only thing that happened in the second half was Castledine took a shot and it went wide. And that's it. Nothing else happens, because Town have got the most of the possession of the ball and don't do anything with it. I agree. Blackpool were one of the teams that I tipped to do very well. I still think they'll do all right across the season. They've had a bad start. I don't think Blackpool's play was quality on Saturday. The Blackpool fans, I went on their podcast and they kind of were really worried before the game. I spoke to one of the chaps afterwards and he said, I shouldn't be concerned as a fan of Huddersfield. Most of the play was from Town. It's just one of them games, isn't it, where it's a mad 10 minutes. Town were bad defensively, and Blackpool capitalised on that, and that's fair play to them. That's what football's all about. But I wouldn't say, from my knowledge of what's happened and people being at the game, I don't think that Blackpool were any more quality than Town on the day. They just took the chances that Town fed them, basically.
Just very quickly, going to come on to something that Ian's pointed out. He says we keep breaking up on YouTube. Michael Bottomley put in a comment well before we started saying that YouTube is having issues with stream buffering. So yeah, we are well aware that there may well be issues with the YouTube stream. If you are struggling with it, it is live on X following on his Twitter and on Facebook as well. If he's just searched for the West Yorkshire Football Show, if it's breaking up on there, it should be absolutely fine on X and on Facebook as well. I mean, Steve, let's come on to tomorrow night then, and a Yorkshire derby at the John Smith Stadium with Doncaster Rovers, of course, who are new promoted. They've had a reasonable start to life. It has to say better than reasonable, unbeaten in their first 3 games, 2 wins and a draw. I mean, what are you expecting at the game tomorrow night?
Yeah, well, it might be, you never know, a blustery John Smith's. I mean, it's going to be warm. It's not going to be as warm as where I'm going tomorrow, but yeah, it is going to be warm.
Where are you going tomorrow, Steve?
Gran Canaria. So I'm not around.
So you're not going to be there? Oh dear.
I'm not going to be around for the next 2 town games. I will be doing a review though, poolside, so everybody can look forward to that. But yeah, in terms of
keep your top on.
In terms of
no budgie smugglers.
No budgie smugglers.
If only YouTube were buffering then.
Goggles only. Yeah, so in terms of tomorrow, I said on the Town Talk show last night, go check it out if you haven't. Doncaster will get 2 goals because Billy Sharp is bound to score because he always does against Town. And Matty Pearson will also get a goal and go over to the South Stand and shush him because that's what Matty Pearson will probably do. So yeah, Doncaster are a good side. They've come up from League 2. They're solid. I don't think they'll be anywhere near relegation this year. They've had a really good start. It's got to be a gritty Yorkshire derby, hasn't it? And Town have got to be up for it and want to prove that the weekend was just like I said, a mad 10 minutes, and they've got it out of the system. But you know, looking at our squad and looking at their squad, we again should have too much quality for them, but it's not always about the quality that makes the difference.
No, absolutely. And then looking further ahead, who've got the weekend?
Stevenage at home. So again, another tough fixture because they've started 3 from 3.
Yeah.
You know, they went really well last year, didn't they? And I think
nobody saw that coming.
No,
to be the only side in League One at this stage with 3 wins from 3 games.
No, I mean, and they've just carried on from last season. I mean, I had them to be doing not very well. I don't think I had them to go down, but I had them down there, like lower. I just think they're very good defensively, and they've got a very set structure of Stevenage. All the players tend to know what they need to do, and I think that helps. I don't think they've had a massive turnover in players. And when you've got your favourite player up top, Chris, on FIFA, Mr. Reed's banging the goals in, it always helps, doesn't it? Just tell everybody live on stream how many goals he got against you.
I'm just glad that he's not as good in real life as he was in one particular match on FIFA. Gaz, I think you've got a couple of questions for Downsy, haven't you?
Just 11 goals.
Isn't tomorrow night just an opportunity, Downsy? I mean, I know it's like obviously it's new manager, largely new squad. This is a test for them. It's all gone well in the first 2 games, 2 really good wins. This is now a test for a new manager and new squad, how you react to a defeat. And it's not the end of the world losing to Blackpool. It's not, because they're expected to be up there themselves. So this is just a first test, isn't it, surely, for this new manager and this new team?
Yeah, absolutely, Gaz. I think, no team, not even Birmingham last year, who had the records point total, went the whole season unbeaten. So Town were always going to lose fixtures. It's probably better to get that out of the way quicker, because then Grant can deal with it. I'm just really interested to see whether he learns from what he didn't do well at the weekend, and that was, not making substitutions, not trying something a bit different, even if it's like, I don't know, last 10 minutes chucking Joe Lowe up there, a big 6'6" centre half that can win a few headers. Just do something a little different. And like you said, Gaz, it is an opportunity to get back on the horse and get 3 points. But Town have to be realistic and understand that it's going to be difficult. Doncaster are going to come up to the stadium, make it a really hard, gritty Yorkshire match. And we'll see which side plays the better Northern football.
Yeah, they're a good side. They're a good side. They're in good form, and you know, and obviously, I heard you mention Pearson before. I looked at their team at the weekend. Pearson was on the bench, so I don't know if he's been on the bench for the first couple of games, but he was definitely on the bench on Saturday. But Molyneux's the one to watch, mate. Luke Molyneux, great player.
Very good player.
I was surprised he hasn't been snapped up yet, and he still might be, because the window's open. But I am surprised that a higher team in League One or bottom end Championship hasn't gone in for him. Definitely.
Anything else from you guys for Downsy on League One?
Not really, I don't think. Lou,
your take?
No, I think Downsy's saying as it is. I'm not massively convinced. Maybe that's my Newcastle glass on about Blackpool, about Steve Bruce. But I also think, and I'm saying this across the board for a load of football teams, and I've seen, and we'll probably come on to it, a massive overreaction from people about the first opening 2 or 3 games. And if we lose a game, it very quickly becomes the end of the world, and it's really not. I think, like Gaz said earlier, you're entitled to possibly lose a game or 2 at the very beginning. It's always a busy month, is August anyway. You're still finding your feet into it. I think some fans are very fickle. If I'm being honest, in August, this is me going on my pedestal here, but there's a feeling at the moment that a lot of fans feel they're entitled to win every game. That's never going to happen. You know, don't get me wrong, you don't want to lose a game, but, you know, did we say Huddersfield Town we're going to go unbeaten across the course of the season? No, we didn't. Do we expect them to be challenged at the end of the season? Yes. And do I still think they can do? Yes. I don't think that changes anything. But like you said, I think it's a really good time to see how the players react, because it's one that they wouldn't have wanted to be defeated. He's shuffled the pack a few times, which is keeping the team fresh, and he's probably still working out his proper 11 as well, which I think is a big thing for a manager, and he'll probably start to settle down in a month or 2. So I don't think it's a disaster at all for Huddersfield. I think they've had a decent enough start. Like I say, a bit of a Carabao Cup win, which is, you know, boosted morale and the crowd as well against Blackburn. I think it's fine. Against Leicester, sorry, I think it's fine. I don't think there's any issues at Town. I think the issue has become if you lose 5 or 6 on the bounce, and depending on what potentially noise goes on social media from certain quarters, which we know can possibly happen, that's when you'll start to raise eyebrows. But until then, there's nothing to worry about for me.
Yeah, two points on that. One, I think you're right, Lou. I think there is a bit of a thing in football at the moment with certain sections of certain fan groups for sure, and we'll probably see that tonight from one fan group if Everton do, you know, hopefully go and beat Leeds 3-0, and you'll see an overreaction by certain people. There has been an overreaction from some Town fans for sure, which I don't think is right. You know, it's one game, but the other side of that, Lou, is to be fair to some Town fans, and this is not all, but I do think there's been a slight overreaction. Well, there has been an overreaction, but it's not out of the fact that we say that we should be winning every game because Blackpool are a good team. It's we don't want to happen what happened last year, and you lose one, and then it snowballs into something a bit bigger, because we know the mentality of what's happened at the club over the last 3-4 years. And I'm just hoping, because it's basically a brand new squad, and I do actually think that the mentality is going to be better, but it is a bit scary for some Town fans to think, oh no, we've lost a game, here we go again, kind of attitude.
I can get that, but
I do agree with what you said.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a completely fair point. You know, this is why Lee Grant's been appointed. That's why Kevin Nagle and his team felt he was the best man for the job. This is where he's got to earn his coin. It's not, crikey, it's, you know, they've lost one game by a goal away from home. And like I say, this is where reaction comes. Don't get me wrong, if you lose 4-0, you know, there'll be pitchforks out for him tomorrow night. You can see that happening already. But listen, this is why he's in his job, and it's new to him as well as it is the players. And I think, I'm not saying you're going to definitely get promoted, but it seems on the outside looking in is already a little bit of a different feel. The best reaction now is to go and win tomorrow, and that comes in 2 different ways, and that comes in a convincing 3-4-0 victory where you dominate Doncaster and you're able to rest players, or it's a really clumsy, boring, but you still win 1-0. That's how it goes, and that's just football, isn't it? But I've seen people over the course of a weekend of a massive overreaction. You just like get a great pitch, really not that bad.
That's the point I was trying to make before. That's why it's such an opportunity. It's such an opportunity now to show that it's not going to be like last season. We're at home. We're going to bounce back. We're going to win the game. That's why it's such an opportunity for these 100%. New players and management.
I think that's the other thing as well is that it's a good position that obviously it's Doncaster and Stevenage are both at the John Smith Stadium as well these next 2 games, so there's a good chance to 100%. Get the fans back on side and get the results there. It is one of those. Obviously, if you come away with maybe 2 points from the 2 games, then there might be a couple of questions. But I think even that wouldn't be the end of the world when you look at the starts those 2 sides in particular made.
No, it was an angry dressing room after the game, apparently, according to Grant and Gooch, and I suppose that's a good reaction, in a sense.
Yeah. Final question then, I guess, on Town in terms is one of. Where are things in terms of the transfer market? Obviously, you mentioned Castledean being the latest in, but any talk of further additions to come?
No, I don't think so. There's a lot of fans are getting a bit jittery about the fact that Miller's out again for another 6 weeks or something, and people are saying that we should get a winger in. I don't think Town will do any business, lads. I think it will be a very boring deadline day for you, to be honest, in terms of a Town perspective, because I just don't think. I think there's an expectation now that we've brought the players in that we need to do the job. I can see some more players going out. Obviously, this week, I don't know if any of you saw, Reece Healy went out to Barrow on loan. That was always going to sort of happen. I'm not surprised that his injury record. And the lad needs to go out and play football. And it ended at day, he's 6th choice striker at Town now. And he's not even in front of some of the young lads coming through. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Freddie leave or even Bojan, because neither of them got into the squad via Leicester for the cup game. So I can see more outs than ins, to be honest.
It is absolutely nuts how quickly Reece Healy has dropped like a stone coming from Toulouse, where it had a couple of good seasons, to signing for Town, and
Injuries,
it just not work. Yeah, it just not working out because of the injury front. It's absolutely bonkers though. So he's gone from top 2 tiers in France to the 4th tier in England, like that in the grand scheme of things.
His hamstring was literally, I think it was reconstructed from like a part of his arm
paper.
or
wet tissue paper.
Well, yeah, but more my point is that the operation that he had was obviously so badly done that it's just he's never been able to. Like, I think he only played. I don't even think he played a full game in minutes last year. I think that's how mental that is.
Well, how much did you pay for him, Gans? How much did he cost?
2 million, Gaz.
Mental.
4 goals in 20 league appearances for Town since joining in January 2024.
Yeah,
but obviously hasn't started since February because of that knee injury.
2 million quid he cost us, and that just shows the fact that hopefully Kevin has learned about how to buy players, and I think that was one. You know, he will always look back on that deal and go, "We got ripped off there. Watford sold us a pup."
I think there's an element of that, but I think there's also you're just sometimes unlucky, aren't you? Sometimes some signings go for you, some don't. And yeah, I know he's had a couple of injuries before, and you know people can start questioning things. But I feel sorry for everyone concerned because sometimes it's just one of those scenarios where you just got to put it down. It's just bad luck. And the poor lad has, you know, had a half decent career ahead of him, and now it's just been tarnished by injuries. And you see these players just falling down the pecking order, and before you know it, they're probably not even playing non-league football, and they have to find a job elsewhere because the legs just can't take it.
Lou, trust me, although he only played 4 games last year, and he played, 22 times, and he's only scored 4 goals. If that lad didn't have injuries, he would be a top-end championship striker. That's how good he is. He knows where to put the ball in the net. It's just his body can't do it. His mind's there. He knows what he wants to do thought-wise. You can tell when you watch him play, but his body's just, it's not with him.
And I know this is a different discussion because we'll be moving on, but this is where I feel there needs to be real big support for players like this who are going through those occasions, who have, had expectations to do really well. And through no fault of their own, they're just having to be tarnished. And I think that's where the likes of the PFA, etc., have got to put their arms around these people and really look after them, because that, there's a possibility that person could, suffer mental health issues or just in general life. What does life look like after football? Because, what a season or so ago they signed for $2 million, and now, no disrespect to Barrow, he's going down to Barrow, and there's nothing to say that he might not succeed there. Hopefully he does and he kicks on, but proven record of injuries, it's tough. And I think it's players like that, for me, that really need to be looked after better. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. From one side then that hasn't made any more signings, or doesn't expect to make any more signings, to a side that has tonight made a signing, Gaz. Bradford City bringing in Nick Powell, who, of course, is famous for playing for Crewe, for Manchester United, amongst others. But most recently, at tomorrow night's opponent, Stockport County.
Indeed. Reputation-wise, very, very, very good footballer. Been there and done it, particularly in the lower leagues. Obviously, like you said, played in the Premier League for Man United. I think he's still only 31. He seems to have been around forever. He obviously made his name at Crewe playing sort of as a 10. I think he's played up front before. Stockport fans say when they've seen him playing for them, which hasn't been that often, and I'll come on to that in a minute, he has played deeper for them. But yeah, on the face of it, ability-wise, very good signing. The length of the deal hasn't been revealed, although Jamie Rayner said he believes it to be a 1-year deal, although it's unusual for City themselves not to announce the length of the deal, which they haven't done. The worry with him is his injuries. Stockport fans said they've hardly seen him. Said he played, I can't remember the exact number, but definitely less than 10 games last season. They say when he's on the pitch, he's absolutely fantastic. He's a cut above. He'll do things that players at League One level, definitely at League Two level, and many at League One level won't be able to do. But he spent so much time on the treatment table that on Saturdays he was more likely to be seen on the golf course than he was on the football pitch. So the hope is that he has overcome those issues. He's definitely been training today. The rumour was that he hasn't trained all summer. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But he has definitely been training today because he's been Max Powers put a picture of training on and he's on it. So he's definitely been involved today. How much we'll see of him, I don't know. But like I said, I'm quite excited. If he's over his injury issues and we get to use him regularly, it's a hell of a signing, Chris. Like I said, the problem is whether we're going to get him on the pitch. But you would hope that the club have done the due diligence on that, and the deal reflects partly what his record's been and how much he's played recently. He's well known to David Sharp from the time at Wigan, who's obviously our sort of director of football. He knows a lot of the lads in the squad. He knows Max Power. He knows Anthony Sarcevic, again, from previous clubs. So I think it's a good fit. The issue is obviously his injuries, but hopefully he's overcome them.
Yeah, I mean, 45 appearances for Stockport over the last 2 seasons since joining in the summer of 23. So, obviously, he must have started out all right there, but then last season was the big hit for him. As you say, good credentials, though. I mean, where do you see him hypothetically fit raring to go? How do you see him slotting in to Graham Alexander's side?
Well, last season we had a plethora. We had a lot of attacking midfielders, players that could play in between the midfield and the forward. We still have a few this season. We got Poynton, Lapsley, Sarcevic. Humphreys can play there, although he's been playing up front. There are a lot of players who can play in that position, but I see as not having as many as we had last year, so I expect that he'll play there. I don't see him perhaps playing deeper. Our 4 options deep seem to be Metcalf, Power, Patterson, and Tommy Lee, who's actually started the season really well in a deeper role this year in that central midfield next to Max Power. So I don't see him playing there. I see him playing further up the pitch. Like I said, probably going to a lot depend on his fitness. Alexander likes us to press and press with intent from the front, and we're very, very energetic. Whether he fits into that, it remains to be seen, but I see him playing, behind the striker, in between the midfield and the striker, Chris, and sort of challenging your Sarcevic's and your Poyntons for that position.
Yeah, he's certainly good caliber competition to have in that role. Let's come on then to Saturday. As you say, you got off your plane, you hot-footed it to High Parade, you get to your seat expectantly against a side in the Premier League 2 seasons ago in Luton Town, and you come away with all 3 points, that puts you above Huddersfield Town in the table so far.
Wow. Wow.
I'm saying now
Is
on that matter.
is that a fact or is that a fact?
Just hated on this podcast by the
You
rest of you.
are what? Tell me where I'm wrong. Bradford City are above Huddersfield Town in the table. Carry on, Gaz.
Chris. Well done. Well done. Carry on, Gaz. I'm interested to see what you say.
Yeah, I should have had more time to get to the game, to be honest. The plane was due to land at 1:15. It didn't land till 1:30, and then baggage control took an absolute age. We were like stood around waiting for the luggage to come off for like an hour.
What were you trying to sneak in?
It weren't me. If you want to know the ins and outs, there were two planes coming from Parma to Leeds Bradford within 10 minutes of each other, and they put them both on the conveyor belt and put the one that arrived second actually on first. So they were coming straight through passport control and getting the luggage, and we were all stood there for an hour. So I was actually eight minutes late into the game, which annoyed me. But yeah, we actually played really, really well. Obviously, we've had a tough start to the season. We've played Wickham and Luton in the first 3 games. We've played Blackburn in the Cup. We turned Blackburn over. I know they had a much changed side, but so did we. I obviously missed the Northampton game away and the Blackburn game because I've been on holiday. But I believe at Northampton we were the better. It wasn't a great game by any stretch of the imagination. Everyone's saying we didn't play well, but from my reading of it, we had the only 2 chances in the game where Tilt's hit the post and we've had 1 kicked off the line. So we could quite conceivably be 3 from 3, which 7 points from 3 games, a fantastic start back in League One. Luton expected to be up there. They'd won the first 2 games. They came and they played and they tried to pass the ball around and they played some really good football. And you can tell that they've got some good players that have played at a higher level. Obviously, they had a few players missing as well. Naki Wells wasn't in the squad. It would be nice to see him back at Valley Parade. Apparently, he picked up an injury in training and didn't feature. I think there were a few out, but we just pressed them. We didn't allow them to settle on the ball. We came out like a steam train. We're in the faces. And if you come to Valley Parade and you want to knock the ball around, Graham Alexander's got us very well tuned at pressing from the front and getting in your face, and we will not give you time on the ball. And Wickham tried to do it, and Luton tried to do it, and they couldn't cope. They just couldn't cope. We just put them under so much pressure early doors, and that's where the fitness thing comes in. Obviously, Graham Alexander's big on the fitness. He takes them to Austria in pre-season, and I believe it's absolutely horrendous from a fitness point of view for the players. But they are well tuned, and they can run, and they can run, and they can run. And hopefully, based on what we've seen so far this season and what we saw last season, it should stand us in good stead. And we're thoroughly deserved to win the game. Luton created very little until they scored with 5 minutes to go. And then obviously it's squeaky bum time and they're piling everybody forward and they're looking for an equaliser. Joe Wright didn't play. He had picked up an injury in the cup game at Blackburn. So it was who played in the centre of the 3. Oh, Aidan Baldwin came back in and played in the centre of the 3. The defence was solid. We were worried, like I said, that Joe Wright wasn't going to play. He's been outstanding so far, but we didn't look troubled too much, to be honest with you. Scored 2 decent goals. The first one comes from Sarcevic not allowing the ball to just run out of play. The centre half thinks the ball's going to run out of play by the post. Sarcevic nicks in, manages to tap it past the keeper, and Humphries taps it in on the line. And then the second's a really good football passing move. It's a really good goal. We break from the back. We knock it around quickly. The ball comes in from Nerfville, who's been an absolute superstar in the first few games, and Poynton's there charging into the box to knock it past the keeper. And we thoroughly deserve to be 2-0 up, and we thoroughly deserve to win the game 2-1. The issue, or the next challenge for us, is sorting the away form out. We've been good at home for a while now, and the away form hasn't been so good. We go to Stockport tomorrow night, which will be a massive test. Obviously, we won at Blackburn in the Cup, but we need to sort the league league form out. And Stockport are right up there with us. They'll be right up there throughout the season. It's a huge test. We've got them away tomorrow night, and then we've got Peterborough away on Saturday, who have lost all 3 in the league so far. So 2 away games coming up, and as we were saying about Huddersfield, a test to see how they bounce back. It's a test for us to see if we can start winning games away from home.
Of course, before we move away from Saturday's game, a couple of, frankly, very disappointing little bits out of the game, more from the stands regarding incidents of racist abuse. It seems that there was a couple one towards, I think, a player from the Luton Town end. And then one as well, a Bradford City fan has been charged with being racially abusive towards a security guard as well after he was asked to leave. And look, it's things like this that we don't want to see. of course, there's no place for it in the game now, but it's such a sad indictment that it's still going on. Obviously, it was something that certainly in the news after the game kind of took a little bit of the gloss away from the result.
Yeah, I mean, what day and age are we living in, lads? You know, it's 2025, for goodness sake. Why are these things still going on? I saw a nice, well, not a nice, but a good interview with a couple of journalists on Sky Sports News while I was away, and they were saying that, you know, it should have been stamped out years ago, but especially after the Euro 2021 final, with obviously the 3 penalty takers and everything that went on there. These banning orders for games simply aren't enough. People need to be come down on with the full force of the law. We saw it at Anfield on Friday night, and we've seen it, obviously, the Luton Town fan at the game on Saturday, and then it's come out that there's been Bradford City fans who've basically been involved with the same thing. It's just absolutely abhorrent, and it shouldn't be happening in today's day and age. And it's cast a shadow over, obviously, our start to the season and the start to a season as a whole, which, it's a new Premier League season and a new Football League season. I just can't comprehend it, Chris, to be honest. And if you're there and you're doing that kind of thing, you need dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, out of what, over 20,000 there, it is always still a minority, but it's still the minority that needs, as you say, needs stamping out altogether. Dante?
Yeah, I echo everything that Gaz said. Like, I don't understand why in this day and age that has to happen. Or why, these horrific sort of sentiments come into people's heads, to be honest. But, and I agree with guys, like, they need not just banning orders, they need banning from every football ground in Britain for like their entire life, to be honest. And if they go, and what they should be, and this is deadly serious, they should be fined like something like 80 grand. And they have to pay it. And if you can't pay it, you go to prison. Sorry, that'll teach you, won't it, to not say this sort of stuff. Too soft. But my actual question was not about that. Was how's Andy Cook looking? And do you think when Cookie gets back up top, do you think Humphries will go back out wide? Because all the Barnsley fans that I sort of talk to and speak to and listen to, they all say that he's better out wide, mate. Not up top. You're not playing him in his sort of natural position. So I just thought, is there a chance that and maybe Nick Powell coming in, does that maybe help that as well?
It's a really good point, Downs, and it's something that's been talked about a lot amongst the City fan base, because Stephen Humphries did an interview not long after he arrived at the club where he spoke about how before he signed, he'd had a sit down, obviously, with Graham Alexander, and they discussed his game and how he's going to be played, and he made it clear that he did not want to be used as a target man, and how he thought that he'd be wasted if he was used as a target man. And that coincided with, obviously, Barnsley fans saying that he's much better when he's played off the left.
Yeah.
The season started and we've played him down the middle, and obviously City fans have obviously harked back to what Humphries said and what Barnsley fans have said, and the question was actually posed to Humphries directly on the radio after the match on Saturday, and it was posed to Graham Alexander in the pre-match press conference before the game last Wednesday. And Graham Alexander says he sees him as a striker and not a winger, and Stephen Humphries is aware of that, and the discussion was made in the discussion. That was basically agreed on pre-season, and obviously Stephen Humphries echoed that when he was interviewed after the game. I think what he was keen to point out was that you can play as a striker without being a target man, and he's been given the freedom by Graham Alexander to sort of roam and to cut in from the side and to drop deep and to not necessarily be that focal point. And I think that's the key thing that's come out of the interview with Alexander last Wednesday and Humphries after the game on Saturday, that's kind of cleared up the issue of him not being a target man, in that he's going to be a striker, but he's not going to be a target man. Now, I can't wait to see Andy Cook back. Every City fan, it's going to be a supreme dopamine hit when Andy Cook comes onto that football pitch again. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. He's been injured since, obviously, New Year's Day. I believe he's getting closer and closer and closer. The last I heard was that he's back in team training, but he's not training every day. So he's like doing a day on, a day off, a day on, a day off. Now, that's fantastic progress. You've got to remember, we're only in August. It's just over 7 months since he had that injury, and we know how serious cruciates can be and how long people can be out for. He's absolutely buzzing. Every time you see an interview, you can see how happy he is to be back out there training with the lads. Hopefully, he's not a million miles away. They haven't revealed the target dates. They've said they will not do that because then it puts pressure on the player and it creates disappointment if he was to have a setback and not make it. Cook was asked directly in his last interview if he had a game in mind, and he said, "Yeah, I have, but I'm not going to tell you what it is." So everything, touch wood, looks like it's heading in the right direction, and I would hope that we see him in the not too distant future, but obviously not too soon that it's going to cause him a setback. But when it does, mate, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I just want to see us playing the type of football that we played after he got injured, because our style changed when he got injured on New Year's Day, and we stopped going as long, and we started knocking it on the floor and playing just better attacking football. And that did coincide with your Sarcevic and your Patterson coming back into the team. I want to see us play that way with Cookie in the team and with Patterson and Sarcevic in the team. And if we can do that and we can get the best out of Cookie and we can combine him and Humphreys and sort of rotate the two and they can bounce off each other, it can only be a good thing. And I just wish him all the best, and I hope that he's absolutely back to his best when he does come back. But we will need to be patient with him, but hopefully he's not too far away.
The point of when Humphreys up front, and you say about that roaming role, it does give Ben license, the number 10, to run through the defensive line, doesn't it? And sometimes that can create a bit of carnage because they're always thinking, "Oh God, where's Humphreys?" And actually, they're not seeing where your Nick Powells are or your Sarcevic's are, and they're running beyond the line and scooping the ball into the net. You know what I mean? So it's quite clever from Alexander. I don't think it's a bad shout at all. I do think, though, that probably would change when Andy Cook comes back, because he's not going to go. He's not going to roam, is he? He's not going to run into the channel and do what Humphreys is, very good at doing.
That's exactly it, mate. You're right, and we do see Poynton and Sarcevic bombing on past Humphreys, and our sort of, we go from like playing 3 centre backs with wing backs, then we have 2 midfielders, and then we have 2 sort of advanced midfielders that have been Poynton and Sarcevic just behind Humphreys. But that little triangle up top of Poynton, Sarcevic, Humphreys quite often becomes a front 3 because Poynton and Sarcevic push on so much. So you're exactly right, mate, in how we're playing, and you're right in that. Cookie's probably not going to do that, but it's good to have him as an option when he does come back, and we can mix it up and we can see different ways of playing. And obviously, we've got Will Swan there and Callum Kavanagh as well, who will play the way that Humphreys plays. So we've got 3 options to do that, and then Cookie to come back as well. It can only be positive, mate, and I just can't wait to see it, to be honest with you.
And that's why what Town don't have. They don't have that other option of chucking an Andy Cook up top who's happy to battle away at 2 centre backs and all that. And Town don't have that, and I wish that we did have it.
I think though, with somebody like Andy Cook, though, he's never been that striker that's got in behind the centre backs anyway. He's always been that old school number 9, Andy, where he's linked up plays, held. He's got his back to goal and he'll tussle his way through it. And I agree. I think it's a health competition to have. I think somebody like Andy Cook, with the experience he's got, will have to adapt his game after such an injury like this, and no disrespect at his age. But I think also he will thrive on that challenge to get himself back in the reckoning, because he won't want to sit on the bench in the final few years of his playing days. He ain't going to want to do that. And when you're riding the crest of the wave at Bradford City, the best thing to do is to push yourself and push others around you. So, yeah, I don't think it's going to make much difference to how he's going to, and how Alexander thinks he's going to come back and play. I actually think he might come back even a little bit more hungry, which is a good sign for City. I think what he's probably going to do is he's almost going to kind of temper that enthusiasm and make sure he's back when he's properly fit and ready to go, because the last thing you want to do is to rush him back early, and then you've probably lost him for the rest of his career at Bradford City. That's the worst thing that could happen.
It's absolutely spot on, and Alexander's touched on that exact point, mate. Basically, it's reining him in because you can see how excited he is when he's in the interviews and they're asking him questions. You can see how buzzing he is, and that's the type of person he is. He's an infectious personality, very, very positive guy, and you can understand that Alexander's going to want to just control that a little bit and not push him too much. What is also a good point about Andy Cook is, he can play that target man role. Andy Cook is very, very good with the ball to feet. He holds the... he can win the ball in the air, but a lot of his game is built around holding the ball up when it comes to feet. So he still might, although he might not run around and sort of press the way that the other guys will and drop deep and come in from wide, he still will hold that ball up and allow the 10s or your Alex Patterson from a bit deeper to run past him. So, yeah, I'm really positive, and I just can't, like I say, he's legend term used a lot, but he is a modern-day legend at Bradford City, and can't wait to see him back. And I just hope that, like you said, we just control it. We don't rush him too much. And when he comes back, he's fully ready. And it can be the best version of Andy Cook that he can be. He's responded to challenges before. When Verdane Oliver came in, that's what helped him kick on with that challenge under Mark Hughes to go and get 30-odd goals and 20-odd goals at League Two level. He responds to these kind of challenges, and it'd be good to see him do it one more time in League One.
I know this is probably a really hard question, Gaz, for you to answer, but I'm really interested in the answer, right? You look at Andy Cook, and you've just said he's a modern-day Bradford City legend. You've said he's good with the ball, at his feet, but he can also do it in the air as well. Where does he... I played with James Hansen a couple of weeks ago in a charity game, right? And he's still got it at James Hansen at certain level. Where do you rank Andy Cook compared to James Hansen in terms of their Bradford City status? Because the two big lads, they're good footballers, and they scored a lot of goals at Bradford City, both of them.
I think the only thing missing off Cookie's CV before last season was a promotion at City. Obviously, Hansen had that. Hansen was more of a foil for his strike partner. Obviously, that was Naki Wells when we were successful in the League Cup. Cook's probably more of a goal scorer. As an all-round player, they're very, very similar in that they'll hold the ball up and they'll win the ball in the air. But I'm not going to split them. I'm not going to say one's better than the other, but they are slightly different in the respect that Hansen would be more of a foil for a partner and Cook would be more of an individual goal scorer. But they are both, like I say, legends terms thrown around a lot, and now Cookie's got that promotion, and obviously Hansen had a promotion on his CV. They are both modern-day legends at Bradford City.
No, fair play.
Let's just very quickly, before we carry on with Bradford City, let's bring in our own Jason Booker for a quick half-time report, an update really on how things are going for Leeds United in the game. It's finished the first half goalless, but Jay, tell us the story of that first half, mate.
Yeah, really, really good setup for the opening day of the Premier League for us. Sorry, just bring my mic down.
You're not set up yet.
Nothing negative to report really, other than maybe just missing a little bit of a clinical edge in the final third. But I thought we were brilliant, if I'm honest, considering the fact that it's us, return to the Premier League. It genuinely felt a lot like playing a mid-table team in the Championship from last season, and that's no disrespect to Everton. The setup as an away side does, as a typical David Moyes side does. I've seen that half a lot last season, where we were looking to break down a team that were sitting back with the low block, and as of yet, we've not broken them down. That's kind of how it looked and felt. I thought Gabby Goodmunson was excellent at left back. I thought he really, really set up well. Ampadu's been unreal, just everywhere, covering every blade of grass. Anton Stack kind of giving us what we expected. I'd like to see a little bit more from the boys down the flanks. Nonto wasted a couple of efforts and a couple of moments. Dan James not really beating James Garner, who's filling in at left back, as much as what I think he really should be doing. Should be absolutely terrorising him really and getting to the byline and getting balls in. But that aside, like I say, can't be anything other than pretty happy with that really. Everton not had a chance. They've not had a shot. So
can't argue too much with that. I mean, Lou, I know you've been kind of keeping an eye on it for us whilst we've been talking about Huddersfield and Bradford. Is that kind of you echoing Jay's thoughts?
Yeah, you've probably seen my message. I've just said exactly the same just before Jay jumped on. I think Leeds have been solid. They've been tough. They've been stubborn. They've put a few challenges in, which is what you need on a Monday night under the lights, to set your stall out. I think Everton have set up quite deep, which has surprised me. I thought they'd try and catch them a little bit more on the counter. I think with Barry and Grealish, they'll come on probably after an hour, I think, to probably give them a little bit of spark, because at the moment they don't look like scoring. They just don't. Leeds have got the game pretty in control. The only concern for me is that if Leeds don't take those opportunities, Everton have got a little bit of firepower where they can take those chances. But at the moment, I think the centre midfield for Liverpool for Leeds are completely dominating Everton all over. No doubt about it. Empadu and Stack are looking, levels above where the Everton guys are at the moment. But it's that final third. I think Perot's done very well, actually, is that number 9 to link the play up. It's almost like you need somebody beyond him as a Calvert-Lewin-esque kind of player to get on the end of stuff when the guys are putting the crosses in. But impressive from Leeds. I mean, just the stats showing there, 12 shots Leeds have had, 1 on target. That just kind of sums up that first half where Leeds have been dominant, 61 possession, but not really made the opportunities count, which is what you need in the Premier League. You can get away with it in the Championship, albeit the first game. And this is one where, I mean, I don't know about you, Jay, but with the way the first half has gone, you've kind of got to feel 3 points is a must out of this already.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking the other day, weren't we, about how important this game is or not. And given the fact that we've got Arsenal and Newcastle on the back of this, it just feels like Ellen Road under the lights, Monday Night Football, we kind of got to take 3 points, especially given the landscape as it is for Everton. It's a good time to get them. Some of the players are not up to full speed, as in Jack Grealish. They've got Mikalenko out at left back and filling in with James Garner, and all these kind of Jared Braithwaite out as well. So it feels like an opportunity for us to take, and it feels like one that we really should, given the way that the momentum of the first half went. But I agree with you, like it's one of them where the Premier League will sucker punch you out of nowhere if you don't take the moments where you are on top and dominating the game. But I've enjoyed it.
You looked bright. You've built up in the right way as well. There's not kind of long ball mercenaries, of going long and hoping for best. You've worked you well through the lines. You've looked decent enough. It's like we said, it's that final little bit where you just need to define. I mean, Pirlo's had a good chance, but it's actually a good save from Pickford. That hurts me to say, but at the same time, if you're capable, I think if you come out the blocks and score early second half, Everton will have to change because they won't even get a draw the way they're playing. They will have to come out better. I'm not saying they're playing poorly, they're probably setting up as what they're being asked to do. And they're just waiting for one chance out, and they've got to be clinical, take the chance.
How much fear, Jay, I've seen the stats, no shots for Everton, obviously nothing on target. 2 touches for Everton inside the Leeds United penalty area in that first half. This has got Football Manager 1-0 Everton written all over it, hasn't it?
I think we're going to see a little bit of that.
There's a risk of it, isn't there?
I think we're going to see a little bit of it at home from teams like Everton in the Premier League, because they've got the quality to create and take one chance, whereas Championship teams don't have that. That is the big difference. And at some point or another, one of the bright sparks within an Everton shirt is going to create something. So yes, it's definitely a risk. I mean, we're not at the point of the season where we're having to sweat over it. No. We're on day 1. But what I'm really pleased with is the fact that we've equipped ourselves really well. Like, we've come up with the style of football in which Daniel Farke plays, which we saw last season, possession based, getting them full backs into dangerous areas, going down the wings, and to get our creative players involved. But we're doing it with a bit more of a pragmatic feeling that we've dropped the 10, we've got 3 in the midfield, and it feels like we're dominating that midfield area, like Lou says, which was a big concern of mine, in that I thought Tanaka, Gruev and Ampadu, as an example, would probably get swallowed up a little bit in the midfield. Adding Stack to that, and Ampadu being on the form that he is, with him actually playing as the 1 DM rather than 2 centre midfielders and a 10, it's just allowing us to completely keep that control. We just need that creative spark, which needs to come from Nonto or James, or then another that comes through the door, because that through pre-season, that's what it's felt like we've been missing. And again tonight, if there were one bit of shade that I'd put on it, it would be just not having that little bit of creative spark that creates that one crystal clear chance that we'd have.
It's ironic because it's almost like you'd love to have Grealish on the bench for you, because if you brought Grealish on, it completely changed the game for you. Yeah. You could see us getting that win. And I think with Everton, it feels like he's going to come on. I mean, you've just seen pictures now that he's gone down in the tunnel a little bit earlier than the others, etc. So he's going to come at some point. But if you need somebody with that, like I say, just a little bit of stardust in his boots just to change the game for you. But yeah, decent. Like I say, I think it's a decent first half. I think you'd be disappointed to not get anything out of this game as it stands.
There's going to be a moment for Mr. Jack Harrison. That's what I'm saying.
You and Brownie in the group chat have both mentioned Ampadu. Brownie, who is sad he can't join us tonight, is in his deepest, darkest Cornwall. He's watching the Leeds game, I believe. He says that Carragher said about Ampadu running the game. He's certainly having a good one.
He's been brilliant. I mean, he really has been brilliant. He's been literally everywhere, just dictating play. And I thought to kind of back him up with another Welshman in Joe Rodon, I think Joe Rodon has absolutely beasted Beto. I mean, Beto's a unit of a man, and Joe Rodon's just had him on toast. And even Pascal, who I'm not the biggest fan of, has had a good half. A couple of airhead Pascal moments where he goes running in for headers, but that side, they dealt with him really, really well. So yeah, buzzing with Ampadu. I've never understood this narrative that he's not good enough. I think we've had a Premier League player for 2 seasons in the Championship in Ampadu. I just think that he gets swallowed up in not knowing his best position. Some people think that he's better at centre back. Some people think he's better in the midfield. I think this number 4 spot is the perfect position for him. He absolutely crunched Dewsbury all on edge of box, didn't he, Lou? It were a beauty. It were a proper Calvin, David Batty style tackle. Yeah. Absolutely smashed him. Good tackle. But yeah, great half.
Speaking of Calvin, let's talk transfers. What talk of him potentially coming back, Calvin Phillips to Leeds United? I mean, I can't. For a while, I feel like you weren't necessarily for this, but I feel as the window is going on, you're more and more warming to the idea of that he could certainly add, at the very least, a bloody good option to have, and in an environment where actually he can get back to his best because he'll feel at home there because it is his home.
I think Calvin needs Leeds more than we need him right now. I think he's at a bit of a desperate point in his career to try and find a solution to his situation at City. I mean, he won't even probably make the squad registration. He's got to go somewhere. Is he going to drop down to the Championship? Seems unlikely, given the wages and his credentials. So does he then go abroad? Well, Calvin's a bit of a home bird. He won't want to be far away from Leeds. He just won't. Like, that's what he's like. So I just think it makes a lot of sense. And I can't imagine City will be in a world where they're going to be demanding like 50% of his wage even. Like, I think you're talking, if you go to them and say, look, comes 25. To us, sits on our bench for 20% of his wage, what do you say? I think they'll probably snap his hands off. So, and Calvin would be happy to come back and earn his place back. We'd love him back at the same time from an emotional, nostalgic kind of position. I just think it makes sense. I can't see him going anywhere else after last season, West Ham, and then the Man City debacle as well. So,
do you need a midfielder, Jay? Did the Leeds need a centre mid?
Not really. Not really. I mean, in and amongst the options, obviously, that we've got out tonight, we've got Longstaff on the bench, who's a starting Premier League midfielder. We've got Ilya Gruev, who's had a brilliant pre-season. Am I missing anyone else in there? I'm pretty sure we've got 5. Brendan Aronson, I suppose, can play as a centre midfielder as well, more of a 10. So you could argue we probably don't need him, but he would be able to fill in within certain roles within the team. He'd do the Ampadu role better than Gruev would if we have a Leeds version of Calvin Phillips back. That's the problem and the question. But it might be a case that we sign him on loan and we see Gruev leave. Gruev's had a bit of interest from the Bundesliga before we rejected £10 million offer from Dortmund last summer. So maybe there could be a rekindle there. That'd make sense because Gruev is likely going to see very little game time this season. So, yeah, interesting one.
What did you make of the interview with the chairman on Monday Night Football beforehand with Prague? And obviously they touched on it with the interview with Daniel Farke that he alluded to new arrivals on the way still.
Yeah.
And a few of them, it sounded like, as well.
Yeah, I definitely think there'll be at least 2. The James Justin deal, I think, would have been sewn up by now if he hadn't have come off on Saturday injured, which is always a concern with him. But we still need that backup fullback, whether it's James Justin or not. Noah Okafor pretty much sounds through the door from AC Milan, which is one that I'm excited about. Like, I know he's had injury issues, but I think given the potential, given the landscape of where we're at, is one that's worth taking the risk with. And then I do think we will likely still see another number 9 come through the door. The more I kind of try and put the equations together, we signed Dominic Calvert-Lewin as a replacement for Mateo Joseph, but we always wanted a 9 anyway. So he's a backup we want a first choice, out and out marquee number 9 signing. So I think there will be 3, and I think Parag kind of insinuated as much that there will be numbers through the door before the end of the window.
Yeah, Medin Demirovic was one of the names linked over the last few days, wasn't it? The Bosnian at Stuttgart, and again, he fits the bill physically as well.
And Ioannis from Panathinaikos are both kind of that target man, 6'2", looking striker that's got the potential to hold the ball up, but also chip in with a good number of goals. So, the recruitment strategy has been very clear. Even Okafor to a point, I know he's a more of a dynamic winger, but he's still 6'2". We've gone into it with an ideology of a physical presence, and you can see that, even though not loads of the signings are playing today, the likes of Stack, even Goodmunson, very, very capable in the physical aspects. Longstaff, obviously not starting today. Biol not starting today. They're all specimens. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let you get back for the second half, which is just about to get on the way the players coming back out of tunnel. Jay, thanks for jumping on. And will there be a review from you or from Brownie or some form later, maybe?
I don't think it'll be tonight, but probably tomorrow.
There we go. Cheers, Jake. Pop it on, Jay.
Nice one, lads. Take
Enjoy
care.
the second half, and Downsy wishes you the best of luck for the second half.
Over the toffees, Jay. Over toffees.
Yeah, get back to the seaside. Go get a donkey.
Woo!
Cheers, mate.
They've got to without centre half. Right.
Bye.
Let's carry on then, Gaz, with Bradford City, and we were talking about new arrivals for the other sides. I wanted to touch on for Bradford, kind of where you think the rest of the transfer window lies for the Bantams.
Similar to what Downsy said, I don't think there'll be a lot. To be honest, Chris, Graham Alexander said before a couple of weeks ago that we basically had space for one more before outs would be needed. Obviously, Nick Powell's coming today, so he's the one more. I think, obviously, Adam Wilson and Tyler Smith still at the club, told all summer that they're free to go. If they go, possibly Clark Oduor might be available to leave as well. Although nothing's been said on him, but he's another one that's not making the squad. But I think it's outs before ins.
Are you surprised that you kind of, I don't know, seemingly struggled to shift the ones like Adam Wilson and you say Clark Ador and that they are just still there. I'm not quite going to say lingering like a bad smell because they've been, thoroughly professional and carrying on with everything. But are you surprised they are still there and that the club haven't been able to find any way of moving them out so far?
Yeah, I mean, Clark Oduor's just my opinion. There's nothing been said from the club about him. It's just the fact that he's not been in the squad for months at the end of last season or the beginning of this. He's not made the squad. So I would imagine he'd be the third one. But Tyler Smith and Adam Wilson were told all summer that they could go. They were both out on loan last season. Adam Wilson went back to TNS, who we signed him from. Tyler Smith was at Barrow. The only one that we are aware of who has turned down a move is Tyler Smith. Barrow wanted him back, and he turned down a move back to Barrow. So there has obviously been interest in him. If there's been interest in him, it makes you wonder if there's been interest in the others as well. And either we've not agreed a deal or they've not wanted to go there. They're the sort of names that I would imagine will go out, even if it's just on loan before the end of the window. You'd expect them to go somewhere. And that might enable us to bring more in. We've got 31 first team, a squad of 31 players, Chris, so we're well stacked. Obviously, if they, like I said, before anyone comes in, they would have to go. It is a little bit surprising that they've not gone yet. A little bit frustrating as well from a fan's point of view that they are still at the club. Your Adam Wilsons and Tyler Smiths who've clearly not got a future under Graham Alexander. So, yeah, it's frustrating and a little bit surprising. And I would just hope that at least a loan move materialises for them before the end of the window.
Finally, then, these next two games, as we said, we touched on it a little bit before we spoke to Jay. Stockport County tomorrow night, a difficult-looking game, and then Peterborough away at the weekend, who, again, it always used to be a pretty tough place to go in London Road, but Peterborough over the last 18 months have been a shadow of them former self. So what are you expecting out of these upcoming away games?
Yeah, opposite teams in terms of form, like you say, Chris. Stockport expected to be up there, made the playoffs last year, expected to be challenging for promotion again this year. That's going to be a really, really tough place to go. We have a few of their ex-players in our squad. Obviously, Nick Powell being the latest one. I think we read a stat today where we've played them more than we've played anyone else in our Football League history. We played them in the Cup last year and managed to get a win in the Virtue Motors Trophy. But I think I'd take a draw there tomorrow, given how good they are and how our away form has been so poor over the last year or so. We need to turn that round as quickly as possible because our home form is obviously carried on from where it left off, and it's the away form that's holding us back. We need to get something. I would hope if we're gonna turn the away form round, it needs to be early doors, and if we can't do it tomorrow night, we've got to aim to do it on Saturday because, as you say, Posh, they're a team that have struggled over the last couple of years. I saw that today that they've signed Ben Woods from Accrington. Obviously, they signed Brandon Kaler, who was on loan with us last year. So they're two good central midfielders that they've signed there. And obviously, but Darren Ferguson, you would imagine he's under pressure there. Obviously, been at Peterborough quite a few. Is in his third or his fourth spell there as manager. I suppose if they do sack him, they'll be bringing him back within the next year or so anyway. But yeah, we've got to go and try and win that game. If we don't get a win tomorrow night, if we get beat or draw tomorrow night, we've got to be looking to go to Posh and win, because if we can't turn our away form around there, it makes you wonder where we will be able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wish you the best for these upcoming games. Lou, let's turn our attention then to the non-league scene. And what can you say about FC Halifax Town? It's never dull at the Shea. On the pitch, things aren't going their way. We'll start with the ground news that looks like it's all going through the sale of the Shea to Sir Ken Davey.
Yeah, looks like, according to our friend Tom Scargill at the Courier, that looks like might be very close to happening. I believe that it's not going to officially go through until the early October-wise, but it seems that Ken Davey is going to get his hands on the share after the community interest poll there. Interest in that, so it looks to be that's the case. So I know the pitch is almost pretty much done from the report from Tom. It's about what Ken Davey said. It's about 90% done as a two-part interview. So we're just waiting for the second part to be shown. So yeah, hopefully FC Halifax Town will be back there playing very shortly, and it's one that's going to have to be a keen eye on because Ken Davey also runs Huddersfield Giants. We know that situation that he's looking to take Huddersfield Giants to the share while they try and find a new home wherever that may be, because it appears that kind of their first site in Huddersfield may not happen. We'll wait and see on that one, which is kind of used as that big car park near the stadium. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens, because at some point there's likely to be 3 teams playing there, and despite the pitch work, we know that the share over the years hasn't been the greatest surfaces, so hopefully that will be a bit better. I know there's a bit of artificial, I believe, going in there as well. So yeah, it's interesting time off the pitch. They've just got to concern themselves with what's happening on the pitch, which hasn't started too well, has it?
No, we'll come to that in a moment. I just wanted to make kind of a little bit more of a discussion on the stadium situation, because look, we've heard from Dave Foy, our Halifax Town man, a little bit earlier in the group chats. He doesn't seem overly enamoured with the whole Sir Ken Davey taking over situation with the stadium. But ultimately, surely you've got to look at this from the outside as beggars can't be choosers, and there's literally nobody else who's come forward that is willing to buy the share. With the council desperate to sell, what else are they to do, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there's I think the main worry is, what does SC Halifax Town look like when Ken Davey does take over the stadium? Obviously, we don't know. He's come out in his report recently, just now with Tom, saying that it'd be good for for SC Halifax Town and the Panthers, and at some point Huddersfield Giants as well. So all being well, that that does come to fruition for Halifax Town, because ultimately it's their home. It is in the centre community. It's pretty much perfect as a stadium in and around the community, just outside Halifax Town Centre. It's always a good away day for many people, and I know FC Halifax Town fans like it. It's one of the best for me, one of the best non-league stadiums around the local area. So yeah, I mean, listen, we don't know what we don't know, because obviously Ken Davey's not been official, as it's not actually gone properly through yet. But outside looking in, it feels like it's a sensible move from Mr. Davey, because it's an asset that he can potentially buy. It's an asset that's going to be used by potentially 3 sporting clubs. Commercially and business-wise, it probably makes a lot of sense. because it's likely to be used on a very regular basis, and the attendances there are going to be pretty decent as well. So can't blame him. It's just I think obviously FC Halifax Town fans are looking at what that means to them as a club, and hopefully they don't get pushed aside, because ultimately he doesn't own Halifax Town. He owns Huddersfield Giants, and that is his priority, which is completely understandable. So let's see what happens if that does go through eventually. But yeah, I think that is the worst case scenario. Halifax Town don't play at the Shea, and if that is the case, where do they end up? And that's where the question marks will be raised, because there isn't many around this local area that be able to fit the Halifax Town fans and visiting supporters, because likely they're getting decent numbers in the National League, and there's not many grounds in and around this region that will take them. If I'm being honest, you look at Valley Parade, that would swallow them up. Ellen Road would swallow them up. With Kevin Nagle, ironically, having Huddersfield Town, who knows? There's not many around really that are going to that would really kind of suit Halifax Town and what they need.
Yeah, that is certainly the biggest concern, I think, for the Sherman fans, is less so much possibly the now with Ken Davey on the ground, but it's the case of what happens when Sir Ken Davey has built the new Giants Stadium in Huddersfield somewhere in 2, 3, 4, 5 years time, whatever. And then
it's speculative, isn't it?
Yeah. But this is the thing, it's all speculative at this stage. He may well just decide, he'll keep on the Shea anyway and keep the ownership going or whatever. He may look to sell it, and there might be a new buyer in the offing. He might gift it to the bloody club. Who knows? You never know how he's feeling. Time can tell, a lot can happen in that time. Let's look at on the pitch then, because it's been a poor start to the season for FC Halifax Town. They were beaten heavily on the opening day away at Braintree. They went to Wealdstone, a side that are not expected to do particularly well this season, but Wealdstone came away with 2 wins from their opening 2 games, with a 2-1 win over Halifax at the weekend. It's been a difficult start, as we say, to Adam Lakeland's tenure as FC Halifax Town manager.
Yeah, I think it's something that we maybe have expected, because we knew that it felt that a brand new squad would have to settle down. There's a fair few players in there have not played at National League for a little bit, so they've got to adjust and get used to each other. Let's be honest, that squad was put together quite late. Managers come in relatively late-ish. So it's very much a transitional period for Halifax Town, and I think with the teams that they've played, many people would have hoped that at least got a draw or a win out of one of those 2 games. Going down to 10 men doesn't help. I've seen the comments from Adam in terms of the weekend. He felt it was a little bit harsh, was that red card, but again, it's adjusting to those situations and making the most of it. But suffering defeat at Wealdstone isn't ideal in the National League, especially losing so heavily on the opening day. And they've just got to get a win as quickly as possible. And it feels like it's one of those really scruffy games. You're going to eke out a 1-0 victory. But they need it sooner rather than later, because, listen, if you lose 5 or 6 games at any level, the pressure starts mounting, doesn't it? Despite him being relatively new, he's not used to losing games at where he's been. He's been used to being challenged at the round of the table, so this will hurt him as well. And you just feel that for the benefit of the fans and the players and the club in general, with everything that's happening off the pitch and on it, they've got to pick up from somewhere very quickly, because there's not going to be many teams that are going to go with 0 points over the next 3-4 games. Everybody in that league tends to get some decent points early on.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, and look, just pop the league table up there now. Of course, as you look at it, Halifax I'll say pointless so far. Not the only one. There's a few sides that haven't. One of the other talking points, which we'll touch on before we look ahead to Halifax, is Morecambe. Of course, they were confirmed yesterday that the takeover of the Punjab Warriors has gone through. They are saved to a point, at least, with new ownership. A lot of work for them to do, both on and off the pitch in the meantime. And then today they've sat former Bradford manager Derek Adams, who was the manager that took Morecambe up into League One just a few seasons ago. But he's been a bit of a quick casualty, perhaps, which makes you think the Punjab Warriors, in taking over at Morecambe, will quite possibly have their own man that wants to come in, or that they want to bring in, rather.
Yeah, possibly. That's usually the case in football, as we know, when you read between the lines. First of all, it's great that the club's been saved. It's really good eventually that deal's managed to get through. Fair play to the Punjab Warriors for been persistent on that. They could have pulled out of that with everything that's been said on the outside looking in. Seems to have been quite an ongoing battle, if I'm being honest, to probably get that over the line. And also for the fans and the Shrimpers Trust, because they've done remarkably well to raise the profile, raise the awareness of what they believe has been happening at their club, whether that's been right or wrong, to kind of get people to recognise the plight that they felt their club was in. And that is also the power of the supporters as well, because supporters have a say, whether it's loud and it's a minority or a majority. With everything that's been going on, and we've seen clubs go to the wall before. It's good that Morecambe have got, the season to play. Yes, they've lost, they've not been able to play the first 2 games in the grand scheme of things. It doesn't really matter. Could have been a lot worse. They're easy to get rearranged, those games. And it's really good that they've got up and running. It's a shame for Derek Adams personally that somebody loses the job out of it, but it's not the first time we've seen new owners come in and possibly get their own man in and having to juggle the finances. What that looks like, it's going to be tricky to get players in, depending on the funds that are available. But you also feel that Morecambe have been in the news to get this deal over the line, so you can sense some players who, have not been able to get clubs with CPFA, regularly having to put the free agents out in their trial games. There's opportunity to get some players in, and even though they haven't had a full pre-season together, you feel that with everything that's gone off the pitch and people getting to know about what's happened, you might see some players play it for at least 6 to 9 months just to get back under the swing of things. And sometimes, in adversity, acorns are grown out, and you feel that hopefully that might be the case for Morecambe.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to Halifax then, a midweek game for them tomorrow night away at Boston United, who themselves have only played 1 game because they were supposed to be playing Morecambe on the opening day of the season. Of course, that was postponed, so they played a National League Cup game instead. So just 1 game for Boston, but a win. And it's not going to be... Hoffman in particular has done a very, very good job since taking charge of Boston. He's had a very busy summer recruitment-wise as well, and Boston and looking solid.
Yeah, and if Halifax are going to do half decent this season, it's won the game. They've got to go there and probably win. We need to turn it around pretty quick. Boston have recruited smartly. I know you called it right at the beginning of pre-season. You think we could do well. Started the season with a good win. Coughlin's gone in there and recruited smartly. You probably recruit a few more from what I understand in interviews I've seen with him. And then they've got Robbie Savage on the weekend as well with Forest Green. So it doesn't get any easier for them. So they've got to quickly, like I say, they've got to quickly turn things round. He's got the proven track record as Lakeland to do it. But yeah, sooner rather than later, because it just dilutes any noise coming out. And tricky games, very tricky games. Probably 2 of the tougher games than you would have thought, with no disrespect to Braintree and Wilston. But if you can get 6 points out of possible, 12-ish, it's not a bad return. So they're capable of doing it, but they've got to do it quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's turn our attention then to Guiseley. A week of real contrasts for the Lions last week. Tuesday night, emphatic 4-0 win over 10-man Hebburn. Fast forward to Saturday, at home against Rush Olympic. You think, right, build on that Hebburn result, and it just doesn't happen. They lose by a goal to 0 against Rush Hall.
Yeah, completely mixed fortunes, and obviously have been down to 10 men, but Fewless getting 4 on the sheet, which is really good because he's had troubles with injury. So did he get a hat trick anyway?
Yeah, hat trick one for Taylor Bowen.
Yeah, that was it. And then so that was a really good outcome from him. And yeah, probably wouldn't have been on paper. Many fans would, from a Guiseley persuasion, would have probably expected to get 3 points and suffered a little bit of a disappointing defeat to Rush Hall. But yeah, it's a team that's been built relatively late, and there's still a few gaps for me missing in that team. And I think that is going to be, again, it's all about consistency in that league. They've not finished that season well last season. Feels they've taken that into this league campaign already. And again, probably not dissimilar to Halifax. They've just got to turn the ship a little bit and have a little bit of stubbornness and winning mentality that they've been used in recent season. And that isn't easy, and especially in a league that is incredibly open as the NPL Prem was expected to be. One that, yeah, they should probably be getting at least a point with no disrespect to Rush Hall Olympic if we're going to compete in the playoffs. And I think that will hurt them. It'll be one where they may look and go, maybe as good as what we think we might be. yeah, interesting. I was surprised by that result on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's turn attention then to the MPL East and below. What's going to be catching your eye over the course of the weekend before we aim to wrap up fairly soon?
So majority of it was kind of FA Cup fixtures with a lot of teams playing around the FA Cup. So the East did take a break for FA Cup action. There's a fair few teams would not come out of it great, if I'm being honest. Bradford Park Avenue lost 3-1 to Avro. Brighouse Town lost. Silson have got a replay tomorrow night at Ramsbottom. I'm trying to think who else was it. Emily suffered a really disappointing 5-1 loss at Longridge as well. So our West Yorkshire teams didn't really fare too well. Unfortunately, and I've said this before, the West, I've always felt this, that the West seems to be a bit of a stronger competition to the East. And at the moment, results are kind of suggesting that. Hopefully, Silsden can wave the East flag going into the next round. And so, yeah, there's a full round of fixtures tomorrow. There's a couple of news coming out that Avenue have signed Andriona Mokev this afternoon, who was previously at Guys in Albion Sports. And Joe Kenny's announced that he's leaving Emily as well to an MPL club not being announced as of yet. So, yeah, there's a few still movements and shakers in that league, and it's definitely one that we'll keep an eye on. NCL with some fixtures, and Liversidge got off a mark against Eccleshill, winning 2-0. So, yeah, there's, like I say, as always at this point in time, games come absolutely thick and fast with, some clubs playing 5 or 6 games in the space of 28 days. So it's been busy. Unfortunately, like I say, the FA Cup wasn't to be for some of our East clubs, and MPL clubs have come into the next round as well, which got drawn today. So yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially over the next 2-3 weeks, because there's going to be suspensions, there's going to be movements, there's going to be injuries, and it's how teams can cope with that in such a short period of time. And like I said, tomorrow, especially in the MPL East, I'm trying to look at in terms of the fixtures that are going to be happening. There's some tough ones, I think. And like I said, I know Avenue away at Hallam.
I've got them here if it helps, mate. I've got a few to hand anyway. As I say, Avenue away at Hallam, Garforth, they travel to Matlock Town, and Pontefract Collieries, they've got a home game against Concert. I say a home game, they are ground sharing with Ossett United. Then on Wednesday night, Ossett United themselves are away at Grimsby Borough, and Brighouse Town are at home to North Ferriby United. There's also NCL games across the Tuesday and Wednesday nights this week. Albion travel to Barton, Frickley travel to Boxford, Golka host Beverley, Liversidge host Woonwell Town, Eccleshill travel to Parkgate, and then there's a Yorkshire derby between Tadcaster Albion and Horbury on Tuesday night. And then on Wednesday, Campion welcome Handsworth, Penistone welcome Rossington Main, and Thackley welcome Knaresborough Town. That's all the ones that I've got to hand.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and I think, like I said, recently we said that, a big shout out to the guys at Staten who continue a really good run of form as well. I think second in the league, which is a remarkable achievement from being towards the bottom end of that division. Has started the season really well, recruited smartly. Like I said, Aidan Kirby going there from Campion, and all being well, that they're flying the flag over in the West. And hopefully that good form keeps on going for Roy Mason's team.
Absolutely. 65 minutes gone in the Premier League game between Leeds and Everton, still goalless in that one. Mr. Downs, Mr. Walker, anything from yourselves before we wrap up tonight's show? You are both muted.
No, I don't think so. I just noted, actually, we're talking about Halifax there. Is it Milinik Ali? Used to play for Halifax, didn't he?
Yes,
I believe he was playing for Luton at the weekend. And had to be subbed just before half-time because he got booked early doors and then he flew into a tackle, and obviously the City crowd were right on his back, wanting the ref to send him off. The referee didn't. You could see him talking to him, saying it's your last one, and it was one of those where the Luton manager took him off straight away. And it just reminded me then that was all. We've obviously mentioned in Halifax, I remember he was playing at wing-back, by the way. Is that his normal position?
A bit more further forward than that.
Yeah, that's what I thought. He was right wing back Saturday. Sorry,
that might be why he got hauled off so quickly.
But I was about to say though, how often do you see this, Gaz? Prime example for you guys: Tyreek Wright was an out-and-out left winger, and then ended up being shoehorned in at wing back. You see it more and more nowadays.
And he actually came on and played further forward on Saturday and got himself into missed 3 really good chances, but got himself into some good positions. So it doesn't always, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting Nick Alley. I thought he used to play for Halifax. Yeah.
He had a very quick rise, didn't he? Was it over the course of a season that he went from Halifax to Exeter City in the summer, and then Exeter to Luton from League One to the Championship in the January window? He had a very, very quick rise, and to be fair, he's taken to the EFL on the whole very, very well. But obviously, he got lucky to stay on the pitch. I think is the assessment for Saturday. Downsy, anything before we finish up?
No, nothing.
not even an up the toffees. There we go.
Just like he was at the weekend, slightly missing in action.
Wow.
Well, you were very, very quiet.
I was very quiet because I was doing things. I was like at a mate's birthday and I was busy. I'm a busy man.
Oh, friends.
Have a good holiday, Downsy.
Can't wait
Yeah,
for
have a
it
good
to get relegated.
Cheers,
boys.
Enjoy the holiday.
I'll see you by the poolside.
Big thank you to Mr. Downs, to Lewis Sale, to Gareth Walker, to everyone that's been in touch and got in touch with us over the course of the evening. Thank you, of course, to Jay for jumping on at halftime in the Leeds game to give us his verdict on the first half of that game. As I say, he'll be no doubt putting something out, if not tonight, tomorrow, with a bit of a review of the game. Brownie, I'm sure, will be chomping at the bit to get some Leeds United content out, but he's away in Cornwall, I think, with the family for the next few days, so he'll be a little bit stuck on that front. Keep an eye out on social media across X and on Facebook as well to see what we've got coming up. There'll be a Town Talk show, no doubt, coming this weekend, albeit with Downsy in Gran Canaria or wherever it was. And yeah, Jay and Brownie will get some Leeds content out very soon. We'll be back next Monday with another roundup here on the West Yorkshire Football Show. But for myself and the lads, enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll see you soon.